A good basket is overturned by the referees, costing a New Jersey team a trip to the state finals and is getting nationwide attention. We'll talk about that next on the ProZone. Welcome to the ProZone. I'm Matt Roberts. Last night, March 5th, 2024, Manasquan High School and Camden High School met for the South Jersey Group 2 finals to see who's going to go to the state final for the Group 2 New Jersey title. And the game was a very exciting game. Camden, always stacked with talent, a lot of Division I talent, facing Manasquan High School. Manasquan outplaying Camden for the majority of the game. They're up by 14 points at the half, Manasquan is. Holding that lead until the fourth quarter. Then Camden battles back, and they make it closer and closer. And Manasquan's not really scoring at all. And they start whittling away at their lead to the end of the game, where Camden is down by 1 point and heading to the foul line with about 5.3 seconds left on the clock. So let's watch and see what happened after those free throws. And it's a game winner. Manasquan puts the ball back. There was 5 point. Let's go check out the actual clock. When Manasquan inbounds the pass after the free throws, there are 5.3 seconds left on the clock. Manasquan inbounds it to midcourt. Player comes up on the side of the court, pulls up for a long three. He's double teamed by Camden. The ball hits the rim. The back of it actually basically hits the back iron, bounces out. Manasquan player is right there in the paint, grabs it, puts it back up with 0 point. If you watch it and you freeze it, it leaves his hands with 0.7 seconds remaining on the clock. 0.8 seconds remaining on the clock. It leaves his hands. And it goes in. And it goes in. It's actually on the rim. It's on the rim going into the cylinder at 0.3, and actually it's going in at 0.3 seconds, 0.3, and it's good. The referee, who's on that section, in that area, watching the play, he's the closest ref, he rules it as a good shot. Done. Gives it the signal. You can look at right here. He comes back, he rules it, boom, good. Slams his hand down right there, wham. Right, he runs from the sideline right to the middle of the court, says good. And Manasquan players erupt. They've dethroned Camden, who's had controversy last season. We'll discuss that in a bit, because they weren't in the state tournament last year because of a problem, disciplinary issues. Manasquan celebrates, and the referee walks to the court, going to leave, and that second, if you can look here on the near side, the Camden coaches are yelling in the faces of the other referee who was out of position to make the call. The referee made the call. They're yelling at the other referee, and they're in his face. And then the Manasquan coaches see this, and they come running over, and then they start yelling and say, wait a second, he's yelling, and now we got to get in there because we have to try to stop this. And they're trying to defend their side of it. And the Camden coaches are saying, hey, it's no good. It's no good. Now, if you watch the film back, you'll see when the basket goes up, the players watch it, it goes in, and the players at Camden just stop. They all stop and like, oh, man, and they're shocked. You can see it. The hands are on their heads. Their heads are back going, oh, my God, we've lost. And that's it. They're accepting their loss. They understand they lost. They know it was a good basket. Done. One player near side is kind of waving. He's walking up there waving his hands kind of half-heartedly across his chest, saying, no good, no good, no good, maybe. And then, again, the Camden coaches start to scream at the referees. They're in their faces. Manasquan steps in. They start to try to defend their point because can't let Camden overpower that situation. The referees are trying to defend their guys. And it doesn't take long. The referees pull away. You have two refs come in, and there's three refs, and they go out in the middle of the court. And the NJSIAA officials, other officials, they're moving everybody out of the way because the Camden coaches are getting in there. And they're very passionate coaches. I've been filming in New Jersey for 20 years. And I've seen Camden play countless times. And I do know for a fact that the fan base is very passionate. And the coaches are very passionate. Sometimes to the point of intimidating, some would say. They get very impassioned and they get kind of really confrontational with coaches, with players, with officials. And that, depending on the kind of character you have as a referee, it could be intimidating, some would say. Wouldn't intimidate me, but it could be intimidating to some. That's just the way it is. So the referees are being shied away, pushed away. They keep trying to step back in to say something. They keep getting pushed away. They're screaming, it's good, and they're really aggravated about it. And within minute, the referees say, no good. But the ruling was made. It was a good shot. And you look at the clock and it's clear. So they basically ruled and they gave the victory to Camden. So Camden wins. And they get to move to the state finals. Now, understandably, Manasquan is upset. The coach from Manasquan, when interviewed, he says, this is Coach Andrew, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Bilodeau. 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 I'm going to guess on that one. He says, quote, they reversed the call. The referee in the C position in middle signaled basket's good. That's the referee that you saw impassioned on the film. They huddled up, and then 15 kids got screwed in front of 1,000 people. Print that. Print it 5 times. Those 3 guys huddled up, and they screwed these kids in front of 1,000 people, and that video will be on the internet for everyone to see. He continues. These guys can beat Camden's ass in front of everyone in this gym and everyone on TV. Camden, quote, Camden is, they are, a heck of a team. Well-coached, tough, defensive-minded, but we outplayed them tonight and everybody saw it. God bless you all. That's a statement that he made to the shoresportsnetwork.com. Understandably upset. And he's right. They got screwed. Let's be real. They got screwed. The basket was good. The referee made the initial call, and then they changed it. Now, let's be real. You make the call as a ref. You make the call. There's no reason to confer if it's a good basket. I don't know why you're conferring with 2 other referees who are out of position. He was right there. He watched the entire play. He saw when the ball left his hand. He's literally standing next to the player who made the initial shot. So he's got the best angle for it. And he made the call. And a very impassioned good, which means it was good. So why would you change it? Why wouldn't you just go to the table and say, okay, that's it, and then run off the court, and the decision is final? But they didn't do that. Were they intimidated? I don't know. I mean, do you feel the pressure? Like I said, the Camden fan base is incredibly impassioned. If you've ever been to a game when Camden plays, and I've worked several of them, they're very loud. They have their band there. Their cheerleaders are very loud. They have a lot of spirit. There's a hell of a lot of passion from the Camden fan base and the players themselves. Okay, it's really raucous, and they pack the gym. They have a loyal following. Good on them. However, some would have an issue with the history of Camden. Well, let's be real. Camden's not the safest city in the world. It's just not. I mean, it was voted the most dangerous city in the country 2 years in a row. That was about 10 years ago, but it's still not a safe place. There's parts of Camden you can go, parts of places in Camden you should not go, especially after dark. Let's be real. It doesn't say that I'm not saying that pertains to the kids. I'm not saying it pertains to the coaches. And I'm not even saying it pertains to most of the fans. But there are elements that come to these games who may not be of the best moral fiber, so to speak. I mean, let's be real. Camden has armed guards at their schools and they have metal detectors. It's not a safe city. They have a new $100 million school, but it's not the safest city in the world. Let's put it that way. It's a pretty dangerous place to be. And does that reputation carry over? Yeah, it could carry over. It could get in the heads of some of these refs. Do they want what some would perceive? I'm not saying this would happen, but I'm saying, would they want to have a potential riot on their hands if there was one? Some coaches might be intimidated by that kind of thing. Look, I've seen it firsthand where the coaches get so fired up and they do get a bit intimidating. There was one game that I remember working where players tangled up with the ball and one of the players went down from Camden under the net. Other player went down too, but the Camden coaches went crazy, came running off the bench, got in the faces of the other coaches, got in the faces of the players. Other players came running in, and then you had there's a group of guys that come to the Camden games that I've seen. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And I'm not saying it's always the same guys, but there's this one group, and they sit right on the front row of the bleachers, no matter what the game is. And if things start going awry and things get a little heated up, they leave the bleachers almost all the time, like they're ready to kind of get into it. That can be intimidating. And every school I've gone to where Camden is playing, there are a lot of police that are brought into those schools to make sure that it stays safe. So the reputation precedes them. Could that have intimidated the coaches? I'd hate to think so, but it's possible. I mean, it is possible. That's what some would say. I'm not saying that's what the case is, right? I have no issue with Camden myself. I've gone there numerous times. Not a big deal. But some would say that. Others would say, and I've heard this on the internet, or read this on the internet, that the NJSIAA is giving a makeup call to Camden. They're known to treat them with kid gloves. I'll say that. Camden has had some disciplinary issues in the past, haven't really had the hammer laid down on them by the NJSIAA. But others would say that they were doing a makeup call for Camden. Like I said, this is not me saying this, but some would say it. If, for example, last year, Camden was disqualified. Camden and Camden Eastside got into a big fight at Cherry East High School at a tournament. They got disqualified from the playoffs last season, and they couldn't play in the playoffs at all, in the state playoffs. So they were disqualified. Now, the NJSA didn't disqualify them. Camden School District, they disqualified them from the tournament. NJSA didn't do that because the players left the bench, started a fight, and they were disqualified. Okay. Could it have been a makeup call this year by NJSA? Some think it might be. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that would be the case. You hate to think that, but who knows? Given the Camden, because you got to think about this. I always like to look at it by following the money. Others would say it was a money thing. Who would draw more seats? Who would draw more ticket sales? Camden or Manasquan in the state final at Rutgers University? Well, Camden. They have a bunch of ringers in there. They have a bunch of Division I players on their team, high caliber players that play nationally ranked. And they're going to generate a lot more ticket sales than Manasquan High School. So some would say that they wanted Camden to make it to the finals because they wanted to sell more tickets. Now, nothing's going to, you can't say, oh, well, it was set up to do that, because Manasquan gave up a lead. They had like a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and they gave that up. That wasn't planned. It just happened. Manasquan was being outplayed in the fourth quarter. Either they played to not win, they played to not lose, but they didn't play to really win. They kind of played to hold on, or they were just outplayed. But it put them in a position. But again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And how'd you finish? Well, they started strong, but then they started finishing not too strong. But at the very, very end, they got that last shot off. And that's all that really matters. Miracles happen. Miracle plays happen. Last second plays happen. And Manasquan lost. But it was a bad call. They actually did win, but the refs gave them the victory. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say a lot of things about this game. NJSA wanted Camden to win. NJSA, they wanted to get the money from them to go into the tournament. They're favoring them. That's all hearsay. We don't know. That's all speculation. But the refs did blow the call in a big way. Now, the problem that I have is how the NJSA is handling it. Manasquan High School released a statement. They said here, in this article from app.com, it says, there is overwhelming video evidence that the shot was in the air before the clock ran out, but the NJSIAA rules prohibit the use of video or audio replay to review a game decision. Quote, this is from the Manasquan superintendent, Dr. Frank Cassian. Quote, I don't know what can happen. That is why I turned it over to Michael Gross, our school board attorney. I would like to see him get an injunction from the court to stop the games until our protest is heard, because a lot of time what happens is you'll protest, it drags on, then it becomes a moot point. So the game is Saturday. This has to happen quickly, and he's on it. So Manasquan's going to challenge this. NJSIAA, they had their comment, and they came out and they said, then the Manasquan School District released this statement. The district is aware of the controversial call that occurred in the final second of last night's Group 2 semifinal boys basketball game. The district stands by our student athletes, coaches, and community in their concern over this incident. We are currently engaged in pursuing all possible avenues of appeal with the NJSIAA and otherwise in the pursuit of ensuring fair play and integrity in all athletic competitions. That's a pretty standard statement from a school district bureaucrat. That's what they say. It's a nice statement. We stand by our guys and we're going to investigate it. But from the previous statement that I read, it sounds like they're going to try to pursue some injunction to stop this. See, now you're getting into unprecedented territory. And on top of this, it's become national. So the NJSA, they're on a profile, they're on a platform now of exposure that they don't want to be on, because it's been picked up by USA Today, by Yahoo Sports, by CBS News, by New York Post. It's national. Players getting screwed, and it doesn't look good as PR for a high school league, NJSIAA, to sit back and say, well, kids got screwed. Now, the NJSA, let me find their comment, they said, quote, "Here all the events happened within the final second of the game. One of the three officials counted the basket as beating the buzzer. The three officials then met at half court to confer. A second official saw the ball in the shooter's hands when the buzzer sounded. The officials then waved off the basket." A second official. What about the third official? Are they saying that two officials saw it? Or are they saying that a second official came in and then overruled the first official, who ruled it passionately, as you saw in the video, that it was in? The officials then waved off the basket. Later, after being shown video clips, the second official agreed the basket should have counted. So yeah, it was one other official. So one official says it's good. Another official comes in and says no good. And they go with the no good? That makes absolutely no sense. What about the third official? He had to say good or no good. Did you see it? No, I didn't see it. Well, who saw it first? I did. Okay. Who made the call? You did. Then you stick with the call. You stick with the call. Unless there's definitive evidence that it didn't go in, you got to stick with the initial call, the guy who was closest to the shot, because the second official wasn't closest to the shot. He wasn't watching the whole thing. He didn't have the best angle. I mean, that just makes common sense. NJSA is painting themselves into a corner. That said, they continue, the rules are clear. Once game officials leave the visual, quote-unquote, visual confines of the playing court, the game is concluded and the score is official. So while the officiating crew's reports indicate that a post-game review of footage of the play in question convinced them that the basket should have counted, the results could not then and cannot now be changed. Also, NJSIAA Program Regulation Section 14, which governs the use of video, states, quote, "No video or audio recording may be used to review or challenge the decision of a sports official." In addition, NJSIAA Bylaws Article 7, Section 1, prohibits protests, quote, "based on an official's judgment or misapplication of the playing rules. The ruling on the court is exclusively and by rule what determines the game winner." Unlike in college or the pros, there is no instant replay review in high school basketball in New Jersey. These are the rules of the game that all schools agree to follow and which have been upheld on appeal. We apologize to the Manasquan team for the error. Okay, let me address a couple points there. Number one, many years ago, I'd say about 6-7 years ago, the NJSIAA tried to do instant replay. Huddle camera. They have these cameras, these robotic cameras all over, and they were trying to use those cameras for replays. And I was at one of the games where they were testing the replay. And the replays were always inconclusive. I could have told them that because there's not enough angles to determine it. And the quality of those cameras sucks so badly, those robotic cameras. Now, they used our film, much better film. Pro Dynamix film is fantastic film. But the robotic cameras are terrible. The resolution's garbage. And it's very hard to see what's happening, especially when it's up close. So that fizzled out. So they did try to use instant replay. That's number one. Next thing we want to address is we apologize for the Manasquan team for this error. Well, you're a scholastic athletic institution or organization. You have a team like Camden who's stacked with talent. Stacked. And they're going to go to the big stage and they're going to get a lot more exposure on the national stage. Now, they're a Group 2 school. And Group 2 schools don't get the biggest exposure in the world because they're not the biggest schools in the world. You know, your recruiters, as a rule, from college, they're, some would say efficient, some would say lazy. They go to the safe place. They go to where they know they can get the talent. They're not going to search around and hash through the weeds to try to find the hidden talent. They're going to go where it's easy to get it. They all fish at the same hole, as I like to say. So now you have a team like Camden who's got stacked with talent. They're already on the Nike Select AAU team. So they're well known in the AAU circles, and they're traveling all over the country, and they're playing other teams during the season out of state, okay, on the national stage. They don't need that additional exposure. They don't. Manasquan players do. For someone like from some players like in Manasquan, a smaller school who's Group 2, they could use the bigger stage to get bigger exposure to coaches who will come to watch it on a big stage like at Rutgers University. That could make the difference between some players getting a scholarship and not getting a scholarship. The chances of getting a scholarship, a college scholarship at any level from high school, is 3.5%. Only 1% of those kids, of that 3.5%, go Division I. That's it, just 1%. So most of the players at Camden are within that 1% of players that go Division I. Manasquan players, I don't know how many are able to go Division I. I don't know. How many are within the 3.5%? I don't know. But the thing is, you're increasing their odds. And by taking a team like Manasquan, where you know you made the mistake, and taking them out of the championship game, you're eliminating the opportunity for them to get more exposure to college coaches who would not have seen them otherwise. Because let's be real, a lot of coaches, especially from north, out in PA, they're not going to go all the way down to Manasquan High School to watch these players play. It's off their beaten path. But if they can go to one location, again, fish from the same hole, and say, let's go to Rutgers, let's watch all these teams play, and maybe somebody blows our skirt up, that's a big deal. The NJSIAA needs to reconsider their policy. With the advent of video production, which I've been doing, again, for 20 years, I knew it was going to be the future of the business. That's why I got into the business. And I like to say I helped make it part of the business because we became very important in terms of how we film games and how they're covered. Well, now it's everywhere. Everyone's got they got video on their iPhones, iPads, their own little handheld cameras. They have robotic cameras in the gyms. They have people who are covering it. They have streaming companies who are covering it. The games are covered. The footage that I showed you is from a streaming site that pulls in, nfhs.com. They pull in from the streaming cameras that are already being streamed. They pull that into their website and they broadcast it. So everyone's got it covered. So the NJSA needs to change the rule, because in a critical situation, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, something that's covered, lacrosse, if it's a championship game, a championship or playoff game that could determine the future of the team, that film needs to be reviewed quickly by the officials. Either it be a streaming company, they say, let us see your camera, bring it back, let's play it, because you can pull it up very easily on digital. It's not hard to do. It's not like the old days when we started off, we had to rewind the tape to find it. You could do that pretty quickly. You could have someone from the NJSAA watching the stream, and they can go back and rewatch the scene that happens. Not that hard to do. Not that hard to do. They can just log on their laptops up there in the press box, and they could be your observer. There's ways to do it, and it needs to be done for game-deciding situations like this. I don't care who the team is. I don't care who the team is. If these players, these young high school players, are going to lose an opportunity because the referees made a bad call for whatever reason, a call was overturned because of intimidation, a call was overturned because a ref is a dope, I don't know, for whatever reason it is, then you have to have a third unbiased eye watching the film, because everyone's going to see it. And now NJSAA, you're not just NJ anymore, you're national. And you don't look good on the national stage. You don't look good. And all they're seeing from an organization that's supposed to care for kids is that you're stealing an opportunity from kids who would not otherwise have that opportunity and work their tails off to get it. That's what it's all about. I don't like favoritism when it comes to sports. I just don't like it. And I don't like it when organizations that are supposed to take care of athletes don't take care of athletes. This is not bureaucracy. This is the NJSIAA makes plenty of money on their own. The players don't get paid for this. They're playing this out of passion. The coaches don't get paid a whole lot of money in high school. They're sacrificing countless hours of time. But the players in Camden, they're going to get no money. They're going to get plenty of it. The players at Manasquan, don't think so. So it doesn't hurt the players in Camden. I mean, DJ Wagner and that whole team, they didn't even make it to the playoffs last year. They weren't even allowed to be in the playoffs. Where's DJ Wagner now? Probably going to declare for the NBA draft. How about Bradshaw, his teammate? Also, someone who's going to be playing the pros. It didn't hurt them by not going to the championship game or being in the playoffs because their ticket was already written. But for teams that it matters, you got to take that in consideration. I'm not saying play favorites, but I'm saying in a situation like this, you have to say, well, wait a second. Let's make sure we get our calls right. If it's football and it's a pass and it's bobbled or not caught in bounds, let's watch it back real quick before, if it decides the game. If it decides the game. If it's one of those last-minute plays. I mean, every touchdown should really be reviewed in football. There's so few of them. Every touchdown should be reviewed. If it's a blowout, you're fine. But if it's a touchdown that determines the difference, they need to review that. NJSA needs to catch up. They need to, before it gets ahead of them. Because now Manasquan's going to try to file. If they file a lawsuit, that could freeze up the playoffs. I mean, it could. If they go to a court, because it's happening in college now. In college, with the transfer portal, go watch our other videos in the transfer portal. I have plenty of episodes on that and more coming. Players have gone to lawyers, and lawyers have filed injunctions against the NCAA, which is the reason why the transfer portal is wide open right now. And you can transfer more than once a year now. Well, what if they go to a judge and the judge says, I'm going to file an injunction? Done. Now you can't play the game because we want to investigate this thing. It doesn't matter what the NJSIAA rules are. If the courts get involved, it could freeze it. It could. I don't know if it will. There's not a whole lot of money tied up in this for the lawyers. And the lawyers like it when they get a lot of money out of it, but it depends on what the district is willing to spend to make this happen. It's a strange situation that we're in right now. But it's national. So NJSA has to fix it. Congratulations to Camden. But if I'm the coach at Camden, I wouldn't be able to accept this as a victory. I just couldn't do it for myself. I just couldn't. I'd say, guys, look, the video is clear. I can't go into a championship game knowing that I won when I didn't win. And you guys know you didn't win. You got outplayed. You got beat. They got lucky at the end. They got a good basket off there. They did a good job. They did it. They did what they had to do. And you guys have your opportunities to go to college. You're going to play beyond this. Most of these guys probably won't. That's what I would do as a coach, just because it's the right thing to do. The parents might get upset, but let's be real. It's just the way it is. And that's the right thing to do. But it is what it is. NJSA should do their due diligence on this as well. But they probably won't. That's just nature of the beast. So what do you think? I mean, do you think it was a good shot? Do you think he made the basket? He did. But do you think he made the basket? Do you think were the refs intimidated? Were the refs just being dumb? Was it we got to give Camden a chance to go to the finals? I don't think that's the case at all. Do you think the NJSAA should implement some kind of instant replay, film review at the end of a crucial scoring situation? I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Please leave your comments. Contact me on X at RecruitBoss or Instagram at the same handle. And I look forward to hearing from you. So until that time, I'm Matt Roberts. Thanks for watching ProZone. Know your goal. Hey guys, thank you for watching the ProZone. Make sure you check back for more episodes. And if you haven't done so already, like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss what we have coming up next.